You're listening to the Just Japan podcast. Everything you want to know about Japan.
Well, hey there, folks, and welcome to another episode of the Just Japan podcast. We're back. It's episode 210. My name is Kevin O'Shea. I'm the host of this podcast that is everything all about Japan. And I want to thank all of you for being back here to listen. Episode 210, we're chatting with Mully. That's right, Mully is back. Mully was on more episodes than you can shake a stick at back in the day when we were originally recording this podcast. I don't even know what that saying means. More things than you can shake a stick at, but people used to use it where I grew up in Canada. My name is Kevin. I am an expat living currently in Malaysia at the moment. I've spent more than 20 years living in Asia. I spent a big chunk of that time living in Japan. Kobe, Japan. I've lived in Osaka, Japan. And each and every week I bring to you really cool episodes all about Japan. Well, about 3 times a month, actually. So it was really cool to catch up with Mully again. Just chatted with him a few days ago. We talk about a lot of different things. He catches up, talks about all kinds of stuff about his health and weight loss, and we talk about shaving. And the conversation goes in a lot of interesting directions. So of course, when we sit down with Mully, we never know where things are going to go. We talk about a lot of different things. So also a few listeners sent some questions to me to ask him, and we get to those as well. So sit back, folks, and listen to episode 210, where I chat with Mully. Mully has been living in Shizuoka, Japan for more than 30 years. He's an American, and he's got a really interesting take on life abroad, where he spent so much of his life. So sit back and enjoy, folks. All right, folks, it is episode 210 of the Just Japan podcast, and we're back with Mully. Mully,
Yay!
How you doing?
Yay! I'm good, Kevin. Very good. Very good.
Awesome.
Freezing, but good.
Yeah, so it's cold there, is it? Tell us about that. So, by the way, guys, Mully, he was just on a few weeks ago. The episode that you came on for the Just Asia podcast, I took that interview and threw it into the Just Japan podcast. But now this is more current. And Mully, you're in Shizuoka, Japan. What's the weather like?
This is now.
This is now. You guys are listening. You guys are going to be listening to this. I'm going to put this up at the end. You're going to be
listening to this now.
Yeah, this will go up the end of next week. So like the 1st or 2nd or 3rd of February. And we're recording this on the 28th, the evening of the 28th of January. Yeah. So this is now. This isn't like a dated interview. So you're freezing, huh?
Yeah.
Cajones off?
Well, you know, my room where I usually shoot videos and all that stuff, my little man cave up there, it's above the parking.
Oh, really?
Where I park my car.
Ah, okay.
So it's like what in Japanese they call it the chunikai, like the mid-second floor. Mm. So it's between the first and second floor. Yeah. So you go up the steps halfway and there's a room, and that goes out in front of the house above the parking, right? So that cold air is constantly moving under the room. And that floor, oh my God, it's like an ice rink up there.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, winter is there, and I don't know, have you guys been getting snow? I see a lot of snow has been happening over at least on the Nihonkai side of things.
Well, you know what, Kevin? That's one thing. Like when I first came over here, Shizuoka's not cold. You know, it doesn't get cold there. It doesn't snow. No. It gets cold. Mm-hmm. They don't word it the right way. It may not get as cold as other places, but
it's cold though.
Even like if it's 40 degrees, if there's no heat, that's cold.
Yeah. I know. Very true. I mean, that was like my years in Kobe. I remember, and it's a topic of discussion. A lot of people, talk about it, but it's so very true. Like, Kobe didn't get cold per se, not like compared to Canada or parts of the States and stuff, or the parts of Japan. But I mean, like when, the way the apartments are made and houses are made with no insulation and single pane windows, if it's like 5 degrees outside Celsius, that's bloody cold inside, man. It doesn't, and then when you turn on, like, say that air conditioner heater, the house doesn't retain any of that. Like, it kind of feels warm when you're sitting under it, right? But the moment you turn that off, the house is freezing again.
Oh yeah. Do you ever have one of those things early in your tenure when you'd wake up in the morning with no heat on. You wake up in the morning, you're just frozen. Your face and ice like a block of ice.
And then you got to get out of bed. You've got your bed is that nice cocoon, and then you got to get out and face that house. It was horrible.
And then jump in the cold shower.
What I would do sometimes is I would I'd get up. So if I had to get up, say at 6 o'clock for work, because I'd have to commute and stuff.
Right.
So I'd set my alarm. So if I had to, wake up at 6, I'd set my alarm for like 5:40, and I'd get out of bed, run out, turn on all the heaters, and then run back into bed and crawl into the covers, and then 20 minutes later come out. And it was like a little bit better.
Put your clothes underneath there.
Yeah, true. Like when you're camping, like but they say, keep your clothes in the sleeping bag.
I've got my clothes for tomorrow sitting right here next to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. It's like
they're going to go under my blanket tonight and sleep with me.
Nice.
Well, so, you know what we did, Kevin? We got rid of our sofa.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a sofa in here for the longest time. Now I'm going to show you what we've got here, but people listening aren't going to be able to see it. Okay. We had gone to the store looking for sofas, and we get upstairs, and because you have a cart, you have to take the elevator. So we're up there and we're looking around. We're not finding anything we really like. And I said to Tomoko, all right, well, let's head back down. So we're heading to the elevator, and I'm talking to her as we're going across. And I get over to the elevator. I turn around. She's not there. I've been walking across the store the entire time talking to myself. People must have thought I was insane. So I called her. I said, where are you? She says, I'm downstairs. I took the escalator. I was like, oh, okay. And I said, there's one more sofa up here. Come back up and check this out. So there were these beds sitting there. So I sat down on the bed.
Yeah.
And she comes up and she goes over and she's looking at that other sofa, and she comes over and she sits down next to me. And we're like, yeah, there's nothing here. And I kind of turned sideways, and then I kind of just caught it out of the corner of my eye what we were sitting on. And I was like, wait a minute. It was a day bed.
Oh, okay. Day bed. Yeah.
And I said, hold on, if we put some cushions like along the back of here, this would be like a sofa. I mean, we don't entertain guests. So now in our living room, we've got a single bed.
Okay.
But it's a day bed. Can you see this?
Okay. Yeah. It's
got a metal back.
Yeah.
You know, and it's got a rail down there. You can't see it because of the pillows, but you know, if you put the cover over it and put some pillows back here, it looks just like a sofa. But now we got all this room to watch TV. So I thought that was a little weird at first. So I got online. Nah, very common for people to do this.
Okay.
Get day beds and use them as a sofa instead of having a sofa.
Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Way comfortable.
It basically looks like a sofa. I've always thought that,
Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly. But it's the size of a single bed. Yeah.
Okay, so we're chatting here, guys, and it's January, it's 2024, and one thing that some people were a fan of the show, John in Kentucky in Louisville, he was asking on New Year's Day,
my home state.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. So John,
don't forget I'm a Kentucky Colonel now.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. John Soleil has been a big listener. He's been a fan of the podcast forever. Okay. And he was on an earlier episode too, but I've met him in person a few times. He lived in Japan back in the 90s, and his wife's Japanese, and he comes back every few years, and he's a really cool guy. Cool. Yeah, so he was wondering if you actually on New Year's Day felt the earthquake, the Noto earthquake.
No, we didn't. We didn't feel anything.
Okay.
No, we're far enough away from it that we didn't catch any of it.
Okay.
You didn't feel anything, did you? Nah.
Okay, that would have been kind of like with the big one in Tohoku when I was there. I didn't feel anything when that happened.
The Tohoku one we did feel.
Yeah.
In 2011, we felt that at work when that happened.
Okay.
Yeah, that shook really good here.
Okay.
Matter of fact, it shook enough here that we thought it was here.
Okay.
At first,
Yeah.
We thought we were having an earthquake,
I remember back in those days talking to you about that, and that was something I remember you guys posting about. I think you were still probably in the days when you were still on the old Twitter and stuff like that.
Kevin, Mully Gump.
Mully Gump, that's right.
That's right. You guys check out the Mully Gump video. It's still out there. Just search Mully Gump. Kevin did a little scene for us.
That's right.
That's right. That's when you were your single marriage. You're married.
When I was doing my marathoning, I found some pictures of those days. I don't do that anymore. Not until I have surgery on my knee. All those years of running, my knee a couple of years ago told me to where to go. Told me right where to go. And where that goes is not running. But yeah, okay. So, one thing I'm curious about, because, it's, and a few people were asking me, and I'm starting to hear a little bit more about it, like on Gaijin Twitter and stuff like this. But, when I left China back in the summer, and we first went to Japan, and then we went to Canada, and you hear a lot on the news about America and Canada, about inflation, the insane prices of food, and it was crazy when I went back to Canada how expensive things were. So what I'm wondering, and some of the listeners are wondering, with two, I guess it's a two-part thing. First of all, are you guys starting to feel the pinch too of inflation with regards to food in Japan?
Sure.
And then also some listeners were curious about the weak Japanese yen, if that's been affecting you guys too in any way.
Yes.
So could you just even like anecdotally let us know, like what are you seeing? What?
Okay. I said elaborate a little bit.
Yeah, elaborate, please.
Has it affected you? Yes.
Next question.
Yeah, everything's gone up. And, every morning you see something on TV, it says, the price of this will be going up at the end of April or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Everything's gone up. Everything. And it's getting really expensive. How much are eggs? Eggs are like ridiculously high. Gasoline's really high, about what? 160 or 170 per liter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is what, 1, 2, 3, 7, 14, 21, about almost $6 a gallon. US, 5 something. So there's that. And then, what was the second part?
Well, just like there's the weak Japanese yen, but food mostly food, like
yeah. That especially affects us because I'm American and because I order things from overseas. Yeah, it really hurt. Yeah, I'm paying like price and a half for things. Whereas, 15 years ago or whatever, I would have bought, like a thing of shaving cream for $10. Now it's $17 or $18.
Yeah. That's interesting because like one of the things that I hear, I always have my ear to the ground about the international school scene, right? Because I work in international schools, I worked in Japan, China, now I'm in Malaysia. And one interesting thing is that some schools, like in China, for example, one way to like incentivize getting new hires to attract people is they'll say, we pay in US dollars. Like we don't pay in the local currency, right? Because, the US dollar tends to be absolutely more stable than most currencies in the world, right? So you kind of know what you're going to get. If we say we're going to pay you $51,000 a year, you're going to get $51,000 a year, right? And I spend a lot of time looking at different job boards all the time. And I see some of the big schools in Japan will say, we pay in Japanese yen. So warning, it's at a low, So what I'm hearing, just again, ear to the ground, when I chat with different people who work in international schools in Japan and stuff, is that number one, in the last couple of years, Japanese schools, even the big name ones with the great reputations, long histories, are having a hell of a time retaining staff. Once upon a time, they could keep work, foreigners, like American teachers would come over and spend 10, 15, 20 years working at one of these schools. And now after like a 2-year contract, off they go. Because they're just, and I was chatting with one guy I know who works at a school in Japan, and him and his wife are both Canadian, and they own a home in Canada. And they own a home in Vancouver, or not Vancouver, but somewhere in British Columbia. And they have to make mortgage payments on that home in Canada. And they're like, we have to leave Japan. They're like, we love it, but we can't make our mortgage payments in Canada anymore. So they're moving to another country to work because they're like, we love it here so much, but we just can't do it anymore because the money's just not worth the exchange rate doesn't. Yeah, with the exchange rate, the pay just doesn't go like it used to.
So if you're being paid in dollars, you should funnel that over to Japan into a Japanese bank account so you can.
Well, I'm not, but not now.
Yeah, but you should,
Yeah.
Even if you do $100, you're going to be putting 160 in. Yeah.
and that was happening with us when we were in China at the last school.
Right.
We were getting paid in US dollars. So
Right.
when we were sending all the money back to Japan, because that's kind of our primary banking was there.
It's going to have to go down eventually.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything goes in circles. This isn't the first time it's happened. I just got the low battery. Low battery alert. That's okay. I've got a cord here.
Okay, nice. Folks, Jim has gone mobile tonight. He's as he alluded to, he's avoiding his freezing cold studio room.
The fact that it's freezing on my phone.
Yeah.
Is the sound okay?
It does sound good. Absolutely.
Yeah, the iPhone has a surprisingly good mic on it.
Yep, it definitely does.
I've got the iPhone 13 Pro, Pro Max. So it's a surprisingly good quality mic on it.
No, it does. Yeah. I've got a 14 now, just like a regular iPhone 14. And I had this external microphone that I plugged into it to do some interviews at one point. And I noticed that when I put in the external microphone, the sound quality actually went down. It sounded worse. It was like, all right, note to self. And then just to really just be careful if I do some kind of mobile recording, sometimes like an interview or something, I'll take my phone out of the case too, because sometimes my case right. It can kind of muffle the microphone.
Sure.
But yeah, okay. So I mean, that's what I'm curious. How about do you still pop into the Conveni from time to time to pick up things here and there? Are you noticing it in all those places? Like someone like me who's always a big fan of Japanese convenies. Like, do you just see it everywhere? The price.
I never go to convenience stores.
Oh, okay.
That's not. Nah, I don't go into stores. Tomoko would know more about pricing of things than I would. I don't go into supermarkets. I don't go into the convenience stores. I can't remember last time I was in a convenience store.
Okay.
It's been years.
Wow.
And
okay.
I may have just gone in to get something to drink,
Yeah. Well, that's all I get in a convenience store. I just go and look around at stuff. But maybe that's because I still have the novelty factor, I suppose, because I don't get there so often anymore.
Well, the thing is, I drive everywhere, right?
Yeah, I suppose so.
I'm going from home to wherever I'm going, and then from wherever I went back to home. So I don't really need to stop anywhere. If I want to get something to drink, I can go through a drive-through.
Yeah, true. So folks listening, where Jim lives is very different, say, for example, than the places I talk about where I lived in Japan. Because I lived in like downtown Kobe, basically. So, I mean, and I worked at schools where you weren't allowed to drive. There's a lot of schools in Japan, like when you work in urban areas, even if you are a Japanese person, it's kind of in your contract that you're not allowed to take your car to work. I think that's maybe a liability thing or insurance thing. I don't know, but I always
Tomoko's not allowed to drive.
Oh, okay. So I mean, I would always have to walk to the train station, pass like 2 or 3 convenies on the way, get on the train, convenies in the train station, switch trains, get off to school.
Where I live is more, it's more beneficial to have a car.
Yeah, necessary.
I mean, we've got trains, but not like the cities where you were, where you got a dozen trains going 15 different directions.
Yeah, exactly.
We've got one train goes one way and one the other.
Well, yeah, right. True.
Yeah. That's it. We got one that heads towards Tokyo and one that heads towards Nagoya. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. I was today having a little bit of a back and forth just on Facebook with Kurt Bell.
Oh, and,
because Kurt's always loving to show all these places that him and his wife are looking at to buy and potentially buy and hopefully buy. And he was asking me, he was like, Kevin, so are you and your wife starting to really kind of think about things? And I said, yeah, well, I'm starting to more now, like where I want to be. And I definitely will be, so the deal is I'm probably going to have to work abroad. I mean, abroad, I guess everywhere's abroad aside from Canada for me, but I'm going to be working outside of Japan until I get closer to retirement because of what we were just talking about with making money and stuff. So as I save, I'm within the next 10 years, I'm hoping to buy some kind of property, buy a house in Japan. But of course my wife is from Osaka, so it's going to be in the Kansai, somewhere near like her family and stuff. But I don't want to live in Osaka because that's too bloody expensive.
Yeah.
And I don't want to, I won't be able to afford a property in the city. So it's got to be somewhere a bit more rural, but I want to be somewhere, of course, near a train station. I want to be connected, but at the same time too, I mean, I'm not going to, there's a huge popularity these days, and it's all over the news. Like, you can get houses in Japan for $10,000, $5,000. And then when you look into it and do the due diligence, you learn that you can buy that house for $10,000, but it's going to cost you $200,000 to make it livable. It livable, right?
Yeah.
And then
they don't tell you the steaming pile that you're getting ready to buy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I look at those a lot. Sometimes it is fun to go on those IKEA bank websites and look, and you're just like, oh my God, really?
Right.
And then like, how many corpses are under that tatami mat floor, and you're like, and some of them actually like it's in the middle of nowhere and they're still asking like 80,000 or something for it. And you're like 80,000 US for that steaming pile of garbage,
Right.
But yeah, it was just kind of interesting because, Kurt's very, he's showing all this like retirement planning that they're doing and stuff like that. And, it's kind of fun watching him on that journey. I've got some more time, but yeah. So
it's really funny with Kurt. He and I think he's like maybe 2 years older than me.
Okay.
And it's interesting to me to see how he is so focused on retiring and settling down and the end of life and all this, be prepared to die. That's his daily mantra, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm just getting started, dude. What are you talking about? Yeah.
Yeah. We all have different perspectives on it. I mean, for me, that's just going to be a new chapter. I can't wait to,
Well, my doctor put me on a new medicine. Can you tell from my face I've lost weight?
I can tell.
Yeah. My doctor put me on some medicine last summer. And I'm losing weight, right? And
that's fantastic.
It's I decided last year when I started on this medicine that when I hit my goal weight, I want to dress like an adult.
Okay. So for those who don't know you, and this is an audio podcast, what do you mean by that?
Okay. Well, I usually wear shorts and t-shirts and tennis shoes and, blah, blah, blah. Right.
Yeah.
So when I lose my weight, I want to start wearing jackets and ties and vests, and I'll probably stick with jeans. I won't go with slacks. I might wear chinos every once in a while, but shoes and all that. So yeah, I'm tired of looking like an overgrown 4-year-old.
Yep. So again, you're excited about what's coming next,
Yeah. Yeah. Very excited.
And you're very much showing that on your Facebook with like all those amazing shoes that. The shoes, even like my wife, she's like, what's going on with all these shoes? It's amazing.
Okay. Well, we've sold a lot of those too.
Oh, have you? Okay.
Oh, yeah. I buy them beat up. You've seen the pictures.
Yeah.
Right. I buy them all beat up and then I refurbish them. I make them look brand new. And then I turn around and sell them. It's just a little hobby for me.
Oh, okay.
It's not a business or anything. I just, it's something I got into. I was watching a video one day and this guy I had bought a pair of suede shoes, and my mom says, oh, you shouldn't buy suede. They're so hard to take care of. You can't get them wet, blah, blah. I was like, oh, okay. So I better learn how to take care of suede. So I get on YouTube and I start watching this video on how to care for suede. And the first video that I watched, this guy bought a pair of these suede wingtip shoes at a thrift store for like $10. And they're like a $200 pair of shoes.
Okay.
So he picks them up for like $940 or something like that. And he takes them back. Well, I didn't know it at the time, but this guy's a professional shoe shiner.
Oh, okay.
And he gets these shoes back to his house. And, first thing he does, he hits them with a suede eraser and gets some of the gunk off of them. And then he brings out a tub of water. And he's got a wire brush and water and suede shampoo. And he just goes to town on them, soaks them. I'm like, wait a minute. I thought you weren't supposed to get suede wet. And then I learned, well, suede's one of the toughest materials there is. It's hard to mess it up.
Okay.
Just like if you're going to get it wet, make sure you wet the whole thing instead of one place because it might leave a spot. So anyway, he cleans these things up. Kevin, by the time he was finished, they looked like they just came out of the box. Okay. And I was like, holy man, I want to be able to do that. So that's when I started working on shoes. And now I've got a whole area set up over there. I started buying shoes really cheap on eBay. I'd buy Tomoko's got 4 pairs of boots that are about $1,400 each.
Okay.
And we're about $200 into them.
Wow.
And they looked, I mean, they were beat up when we got them. And when I was finished with them, they looked brand new. And one of the shoes is out right now having new soles put on.
Okay.
So, I think we bought those for like $50.
Okay.
And we're spending $200 to get the soles redone correctly. We sent them back to the maker.
Okay.
To have the whole soles redone. So we're going to be $250 into a $1,400 pair of boots.
Okay.
Yeah. So now
Cool.
Tomoko's got this whole collection of shoes over there that we bought really, really cheap one at a time, and I fixed them up for her, and now she's got this great shoe collection.
Imelda. We call her Imelda.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. I've got 5 pairs of Doc Martens here.
That's very cool.
That I'm less than $200 into.
Well, it's interesting. We, the O'Shea family here in Malaysia now, we are already planning our next steps, and we made the decision that we're gonna leave Malaysia at the end of our contract here, my working contract, just simply because it is a beautiful country, it's a gorgeous place, but the taxes are really high and the salaries aren't so high. So let's take that combination. Salaries aren't so high and the taxes are really high. So at the end of the day, that doesn't leave us with much. And the fact that I've got this year, my kids are turning 11 and 14. They both will probably go to college. I need to be able to support that. And I want to buy a property or like a house in Japan, in the next 10 years or so. So it's just not going to work out. So we'll be potentially heading back to China. And, a lot of people are like, no, don't do it, Kevin. Well, you know what? To be honest, warts and all, pre-COVID, it wasn't that bad. I mean, it wasn't Japan. It wasn't Canada, obviously. And I always got to be careful what I say. But, COVID times were tough. But now when I chat with all of my friends who still live there and work there, they're like, no, man, it's great now. Like I can go, they're like, I can go home anytime I want. I can travel whenever I want. I can leave the country, come and go as I please. Plus they make, double or triple what I make. So, just financially.
Should have waited.
Yeah, well, we had the fatigue. We had to go. We just, we were done. And to be honest, I accepted my current job and signed the contract before the zero COVID regulations were dropped in China. So we were still living like with the lockdowns, the daily throat swabs, all that stuff. That's when I signed the paper. And said it's time to go. And where I'm at is fine. I mean, it's a nice place. It's a nice school, but financially, it's going to be. But I was thinking of when you're the reason why I started saying this is I'm kind of already like talking to people I know who work at different schools and different climates and places where there are seasons more than hot and hotter because that's all we got here. And I was thinking about the way I dress, and we do have a dress code where I work, so I do have to wear slacks, but. I mean, it's always like 40 degrees. It's always 45 degrees Celsius every single day, right? So I've got like the Uniqlo, like quick dry slacks. And all I wear, everything's Uniqlo. Uniqlo quick dry undershirt. Uniqlo quick dry polo shirt. And I'm just always sweating and wet and gross.
Sure.
And it's just like, yeah, it would be really nice to be able to wear a vest or it would be really nice to wear a jacket or a sweater. And I would actually probably put a little more thought and effort into my appearance and what I look like. And maybe this would look good with this, or maybe I can wear that scarf with this jacket. Whereas now it's just like, oh, let's pull out all the Uniqlo dry wick stuff because I'm just going to be wet and gross today again.
Well, I've got the plan in for the clothes and the shoes.
Yeah.
And then I started the shaving regimen recently.
Oh, yeah. Someone asked me about that today. Someone had asked, and maybe it's someone who follows you someone on your Facebook or something. And I'm who's it now? Someone asked if you have taken the step and have started using a straight razor yet.
No, not that far, but I am using a double edge razor.
Okay.
The old style where you put the razor blade in and take the top of it off, put in the razor blade, put the top back on, and go at it. Yeah. Yeah.
So like I'm going to a barber here and those are the kind my dad used to collect. They call them safety razors.
Yeah, exactly.
My father used to collect those. Okay. So how's that working out for you? I only ever use like a good old like 2023 disposable.
You get a much closer shave. You get a much better shave. Much better. It's unbelievable. And the shaving creams that I use, oh my God, stuff imported from England. And
I've got to do that sometime here because I'm just using the old crap Gillette in a can stuff. Gillette for shaving foam in a can, and I'm using like Bic disposable razors.
Yeah, I make my lather with a brush.
I used to do that when I was younger in Canada. I remember there was a period. And I do remember I wasn't using the best stuff. I was using like a Wilkinson sword, kind of like cheap stuff. I bought at Shoppers Drug Mart, and nice. Jim's showing his shaving soap, which I'm sure it smells really nice.
This one's cedar wood.
Oh, that smells good.
It's really good.
I can smell it through the microphone. Hold on.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I got it. I can smell it through the microphone.
This is a company called Taylor of Old Bond Street in England. Yeah. So they've been making shaving accoutrement since the mid 1800s.
Wow. That's so cool.
Yeah.
So, and this is where that inflation or the Japanese yen sometimes might be a bit of a sting, I suppose.
This just came in today. This came in this morning. This is from Phoenix Artisan Accoutrements, Dapper Docks.
Oh wow.
And it's a lilac and fig. And it's a hard cream like this. It's a hard puck type thing. I was a little curious about the scent, lilac and fig. I was like, what's that going to be like? So I get on YouTube and there's this guy reviewing it. And when the video comes on, it shows the package, right? Yeah. It's a rising sun with like Doc Holliday in the middle of it, right? And then and then it switches to a picture of Val Kilmer as Doc Holliday, and then to a picture of Bruce Lee. And I went, I'm sold. That's it. If that brings up the image of Val Kilmer as Doc Holliday and Bruce Lee, I'm in.
Nice.
Well, the thing that I found is like with the Taylor of Old Bond Street, like I have one called Tobacco Leaf.
Okay.
Kevin, when I get out of the shower and I come in here after shaving, like this house smells like a man. I mean, it's just like it smells like a man's area, And
nice.
And I don't mean that in any bad way, know. Not any sexist way or anything like that. It just smells like an old barber shop that, it smells good. It smells like a man should smell. And I've told Tomoko, I said, it smells like John Wayne and Clint Eastwood are having children in here.
Oh God.
Yeah. But look at
Nice.
Ooh, pretty. Yeah.
I was thinking of you yesterday, 2 days ago when I was at a big import supermarket, and I went to the kind of shaving section, toiletry section.
Sure.
Hoping to find a shaving puck and a brush because I said, I want to start shaving because I used to do that in my 20s when I lived in Canada, my early 20s. And I did have the shaving puck because my dad used to shave with like a puck and the shaving cream and the brush and stuff. And, when I was a teenager and I'm starting to shave, I want to be like dad. So, I started copying and it was really great. It was like, this is way better than this like shaving foam from a can. But that's what I've been using now for probably the past like 20 some years has been foam in a can and just like a kind of a crap.
I was talking to my friend back home this morning and I said, you don't have to buy the double-edged razors. You don't have to do all this, all that. I said, they actually sell this at Walmart. I said, go up and get yourself a tub and just use this rather than the shaving cream that you're using. And I said, you don't have to buy a brush. You can just put some in your hands and, rub your hands together and rub it on your face. It'll lather up, So he's going to do that. And I sent him a message after we got off. I said, I need a couple tubs. So why don't you get these two for me? It was a tobacco leaf and this other one. And I said, why don't you get these two for me? When you get them back to the house, you try them. If you like them, you can go get some for yourself. If you don't, then you're not out anything because you're sending them to me because I need some. And so we'll see.
Well, I'm curious about, can you get like in Japan right now? Like, it's been a few years since I've lived there. And I suppose when I do go to like a Matsumoto Kyoshi or any of those like big Daikoku drugs or whatever, I don't really look around at the shaving stuff too much. Can you get that stuff there, or is it still just your good old cans of shaving foam in Japan? Or are there
Kevin, I don't know what they've got because I don't go into stores.
Oh, okay.
Everything I order's off Amazon or overseas, eBay, stuff like that. I'll find a really good deal on eBay. Like this this one that came in today, this Dapper Docs,
Yeah.
the fig and lilac, that came with 100 milliliter bottle of the matching aftershave.
Okay, yeah.
And if you were to buy both of them on the website, it's like almost $50. Mm-hmm. And I paid $21 for the pair off Mercari.
Okay.
And some guy had used just a little bit. So it's almost brand new.
Cool. Interesting. I wonder now, I'm thinking out loud here. I wonder if that, where has this interview gone? Oh, they have body shops here. And I wonder if the body shop, if they have, they do have some men's things. And I wonder if they have like shaving cream. I'll have to like look sometime when I go. Yeah. Because they would have something decent, but,
well, I highly recommend to anybody, Taylor Old Bond Street, like James Bond, right? Taylor of Old Bond Street. And they've got a bunch of different scents.
Yeah.
I highly recommend the sandalwood and the tobacco leaf. Those are my two favorites. Yeah.
Interesting. I was thinking like, we're kind of, bouncing topics, from thing to thing. I had a thought today as we were talking, because, and folks listening, you'll notice that when I chat with Jim on a podcast, you'll hear this on old episodes of the Just Japan podcast, when there was like, when I'd have an episode with you or an episode with PJ, it would go from like, normally when I'm interviewing someone, it's like a structured interview about a specific topic. But when I have one of you guys on, it's just like
go off rails.
Well, we're just kind of shooting the breeze,
Right.
But so I had a thought. Okay. So, about friendships in Japan. We're talking about, coming back and this and that.
Sure.
And I thought to myself, like, interesting. So like I left Japan several years ago. I lived in a few different places in China, and now I'm here in Malaysia. And one of the things I was saying to someone recently is that, I'm looking forward to moving back to Japan eventually. Like my wife's family are there, but I have a lot of really good friends in Japan, like really good friends who are there. They're like forever in Japan friends. Like they will always be there. Japanese spouse, own a home,
right?
Will, have kids, have dogs, all that kind of stuff. And they'll be there, they'll retire there, kind of, that situation. So I was saying to somebody, I'm looking forward to going back because I have like really good friends there. And I have to think that, it's interesting that in the years I was in Korea or I was in China, I haven't formed friendships like I did in Japan. And I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just because maybe the expat population is even more transient where I was.
Sure.
People come and go. It's like like kind of, I think, in the English teacher world. Maybe when I was younger in South Korea, people, if they were there for 3 years, people would nickname them. You're a lifer. You've been here for 3 years, man. That's insane. But yeah, so I'm just curious, and this is just something that kind of sparked by that. I know you've got your friend Dave lives in Shizuoka, right? And you guys had the Mully's Place podcast for years, which I hope you will reboot at some time.
I did too. I was just with Dave on Thursday. We went out and had lunch. Yeah.
So I'm wondering, like, this is just a random topic, people listening here.
Sure.
Do you find that like in the area where you are, and you've been in that area basically your entire time in Japan, are there many expats, or I don't know if that term expat would be applicable, not gaijin that have been around for that, or friends or colleagues that have been there for quite a while that are still there?
Okay, well, February 5th, I will be here 33 years.
Ah.
Yeah, I've been here a long time.
Yeah, 33 years.
A lot of people come and go.
Yeah.
Now, Dave has been here. I got here in February, and I think Dave got here in August.
Okay, so he's been. This is his 33rd year as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so he's a lifer. I'm a lifer. I've got another friend that I work with. His name's Keith. He's married to a Japanese, and they got a couple kids. I don't know what their long-term plans are, but other than Dave and Keith, and no, I don't have any friends. I don't have any foreign friends that I hang around with here. No.
I suppose
all my friends are most of my friends are Japanese. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess that's another thing too. That's often.
Well, there's the music thing, the band and so I hang out at the guitar stores and meet people that way. So I don't really hang around the foreign community. It's not that I feel better than anybody, but you make friends with people and then they disappear and you're like, oh man.
Yeah.
So I just nah, no reason to get involved.
And
with
I
them.
suppose for those of you out there listening, guys, Mully does have the language ability to be able to make those connections, which is another thing that you often hear. Sometimes you'll meet people who I can remember when I
That's
first came
true.
to Japan. I met my first months in Japan. My wife found a free Japanese class for me that was like
Right.
in Hyogo Prefecture. It was put on by like the Hyogo Prefectural
Sure.
Association or something, and I'd go twice a week to this like government office, and they hired like a professional teacher who would come in and teach, the foreigners,
Sure.
very very basic, Mina no Nihongo book and all the very basic
Right.
stuff. And there was a guy that was sitting beside me, and I was like, "Hey, I'm Kevin. Nice to meet you. How long have you been in Japan?" He was like, a few years." And then that was all he said. Later, once he got to know me a few weeks later, he was like, "Well, to be honest, I've been here 20 years." And he's like,
Uh,
I'm really embarrassed because here I am in this beginner level Japanese class.
well, Dave's like,
And I mean, some folks don't have necessarily the language chops to make local friends, right?
well, that's what happens when you're teaching all the time, especially in the Eikaiwa system, because, all of your friends are other teachers
Yeah.
and you hang around each other and you're speaking English all day and all this and all. I mean, what chance do you really have to learn Japanese unless you're, really working at it,
Yeah. But
Now,
that's my situation, right?
my Japanese isn't perfect. It's, I mean, I've got a long way to go with my Japanese, but, I speak enough, where I can hang around with people, and there are times things get said. I don't know what they're saying, but, I'm not I don't shy away from it.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't scare me. Well, what does that mean? I'm not afraid to ask,
Cool. Yeah, no, and I think to be honest, I've lived in a lot of different countries now, and not to be disparaging, but in general, Japanese don't speak English compared to other countries I've been in,
Sure.
like, where people
yeah.
if you're in South Korea, man, like, Koreans speak way more English than Japanese people do.
Right.
If you're in like China, even in like in a tier 1 city, if you're like in Shanghai or something, Chinese people speak way more English than Japanese people do. So you can often get by. But now, that being said, even I think more extreme, you're not even in a big city. You're
Right.
You're more a bit more rural, right? So there's even going to be less English. So you're really, I think, I've been studying Japanese recently. I downloaded some apps and I've been trying to work on things because I'm looking at next steps, and
Sure.
I know that, like, if I want to do something aside from teaching, or just to make life more meaningful,
Right.
and to meet people, it's on me. I need to speak Japanese.
Oh.
I can't go to the countryside or live like outside of Osaka in a kind of semi-rural place and be expecting like the old timers around me to speak English. Like, who am I? Like,
The other thing is reading. I can't read. Like, I couldn't sit down and read something in Japanese.
Okay.
But I can understand just enough on the things that I do.
Okay.
That I can kind of put together what it says. And then I'll say something. I'll say, honey, I think it means blah, blah, blah. And I'll show it to her. And she goes, yeah, that's right.
Okay,
Thank
cool.
you. And I don't even know what the words are. I just know the kanji, I know what that means. I'm like, yeah. So
cool. Interesting. Yeah. I don't know. I was thinking about that today. It was just like, and I suppose Japan has that interesting thing where you do meet a lot of those long-term expats where you don't find that in other places as much anyway.
Right.
But mind you, here I am in Malaysia, and like tons of foreigners come here to retire. It's a big thing, like where the government had a big kind of like system set up over the last, say, 10 years where it was called like My Second Home Malaysia. And they were attracting lots of Japanese and Koreans to come here and buy second homes and buy retirement homes. Like, and not just like people from the UK, America. Like, you meet tons of people here all the time who are, and I mean, it was a former British colony too, right? So, I mean, the capital of the island where I'm in is Georgetown, and there's a big statue of Queen Victoria in the middle of the city, and there's also like an old fort called Fort Cornwallis. You know what I mean? Like, so it's, but there's a lot of that. It's a whole different ball game here, right? So, I mean, in this situation in Malaysia, basically, if you're in a city, you can you don't need to speak anything but English. That's really what you need to get by. But yeah, man, I don't want to keep you too long here. I know it's you got to work tomorrow, and I've got to prepare my lessons. I got
to get up and shave in the morning.
I got to start teaching multiplication to my second graders tomorroro. So I got to figure out how to. Well, I figure out what is multiplication. I don't know. Right. I don't know my 2 times tables. How am I going to do this?
Exactly.
But yeah, the shaving thing. I've got to look into that some more because I'm jealous of these things that you have. Looks
here. Let me look, Kevin. Since we're here.
Oh wow, he's got a whole menagerie of shaving paraphernalia. That's cool.
This is my shave den.
So you haven't made it though to the point or have of using a straight razor. So
no, not yet.
You got to have some gonads to do that.
No, you know what? I'm actually just starting with the double edge razor, the safety razor.
Yeah.
I actually ordered one, the Rockwell 6C. I ordered one of those, and it came the other day, and I got one shave on, and I came in here, and I sat down, and I was doing something. When I picked it up, the towel stuck to it. It's got like the knurling around the handle, and the towel was sticking to it. It was like the knurling was like damaged. I was like, well, look at that. So I had to send it back.
Oh, okay.
We actually sent it back this afternoon, and then my new one will be here tomorrow.
Okay.
So today I had to go back to the cartridge razor. I had to go back to this bad boy.
Okay.
And it was amazing because, Kevin, I only got one shave in with that double edge razor, and it was amazing. And today I had to shave with this, and I was like, holy crap, I never noticed how bad this is. And
we are holding up now as one of those. It looks like a pretty expensive cartridge razor too.
Yeah, this is a Japanese made. It's made by a company called Feather, and they make really, really high quality stuff, right? And I'm like doing my neck, and it's like pulling and dragging. I'm like, man, that double edge razor didn't do that.
Well, I got a haircut yesterday, and I go to a little barber shop here in the neighborhood, and I've got an Indian man who cuts my hair because here in Penang there's like 3 distinct populations. There's like a Hindu population, Malay, and Chinese, and I go to this like Indian barber shop where basically all the male staff from my school go, and it's just like old school barber shop, right? Like Jesse's got these great sun faded hairstyle pictures on the walls that have probably been there since the 1980s. And one thing he does though, he uses a straight razor to do all the shaving around the edges, the back of my neck, and as I get older, it seems to be getting hairier there. So, and I've
never had a straight razor shave. I've had like my back of my neck touched up with one.
Yeah,
but I've never had like a full facial.
I'm thinking I'm going to go get one from him soon because he's shaved all around. I'm like, that's pretty cool. And
maybe go a week or 2 without shaving, and then
exactly. Yeah. I think I might take that plunge too.
Going with a nice head stubble.
Cool. Well,
sorry, Kevin. So if anybody's wondering, because the person had asked about the straight razor.
Yeah,
probably wondering. So my razor is the Rockwell 6C. It's got adjustable levels of the aggressiveness of the shave. Okay. This cartridge razor that I have is a Feather Samurai.
Okay.
If anybody in that,
the Samurai,
shave creams that I use Taylor of Old Bond Street, and there's an Italian brand called Pro Rosso.
Okay, yeah.
It comes in like a toothpaste tube type stuff.
It looks like it could be a sausage almost or something there.
Yeah, and like this tube will last about a year.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's not expensive at all. This is a sandalwood. So, so if anybody's interested in that. And then for after, I use Thayer's Witch Hazel to clear off the face. And then I've got some various balms and aftershaves. Yeah.
Cool. Who knew this was going to turn into a shaving podcast?
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Very neat. Very cool. What an interesting topic. It is. I mean, that's really neat. I've got to up my game at some point here if I can find things to up my game. Well, Jim, thanks so much, good sir, and much appreciated. And the folks out there in Just Japan Podcast Land are happy to hear from you as well.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back. Yeah, I don't really make any videos anymore other than those stupid joke videos that Tomoko and I do in the morning. And that's not it. And that was like joke of the day, and now it's like joke whenever we get around to it.
Yeah.
So, oh well.
Cool, man. Well, you're here. You're on a few episodes ago, even though I may have interviewed you a few months ago. I just put that episode up actually on this feed a few weeks ago.
That's fine.
Because one of the cool things is I realized, I was chatting with a guy, Tony Vega, a couple weeks ago, and I never turned off the feed for this one. I paid like a minimum amount of money every month for the last several years just to keep the Just Japan podcast feed alive. And when I put up the first episode here back in December, after years away, in the first 24 hours, I had almost 500 downloads.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, right?
Nice.
So like a lot of people just didn't delete it from their feed and just kept it. Which is, when I think about it, when there's podcasts that I really enjoy, I usually don't delete them either. I have like in my Apple Podcasts, all these different podcasts that are they're like now like inactive, but I'm like, one day I'm hoping they'll return.
Yeah. Well, Dave and I, we haven't done a podcast since before COVID. And every once in a while I get a message from somebody. You guys going to make any more podcasts? Thanks. Yeah,
you should. Mully's Place podcast.
We should. I got rid of that piano in my room up there, so now we got more space.
Bring it back, guys. Bring it back.
And that opens more floors. That's why it's freezing in there.
I'll be.
All right, we've come back to the beginning.
Right. We've come full circle, so that means it's really time to say goodbye. All right, Jim. Well, take care, good sir.
Thanks for having me, man.
No problem, dude.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And all the people that send in questions, thank you so much for remembering me. I was telling Kevin, I think nobody remembers me. I don't do anything anymore. So thank you guys so much.
That's right. Well, the people who are fans of the podcast, who've been listening for a time, they remember those more than 20 episodes or so that you were on back in the day.
Well, it's much appreciated. Thank you, guys.
Well, that does it for another episode of the Just Japan podcast. 210. I want to thank Jim for taking the time to stop by the podcast. We always appreciate his insight. Of course, it was really great. It's fun to catch up. Check the show notes below or go over to justjapanstuff.com. That's right. I'm reviving justjapanstuff.com for all the links, of course. New episodes coming your way next week. I want to thank everyone who has been listening. Thank you for leaving reviews and ratings wherever you listen to the podcast. Let's get more people over on Spotify and Amazon Music as well. Of course, you can find me on social media on X at MadForMaple. I'm on Twitter that was Twitter. I'm on Instagram at JLandKev. I'm on YouTube at BoosonKevin. And of course, now I'm on TikTok at BoosonKevin too. So all those links will be below in the show notes. And we've got some big news coming soon. I think in next week's episode, I will be talking about it. But I'll hint here, I've been preparing a lot, doing a lot of stuff, getting ready for this. But I am going to be launching a patron campaign. I'll be asking you guys, if you can, to be patrons and help me out with the podcast production. There's even going to be a special bonus podcast that I've been recording for those who are patrons. But there'll be a lot more to come about that in next week's episode of the podcast. So that's some big news coming your way. So thank you so much, everyone, for sharing this podcast, for liking it, taking the time to download and listen. Please help us grow. Share the podcast wherever you can. If you are new, I made some videos in the last few days. I've posted on YouTube to let people know that the podcast is back. And a lot of people didn't know. And a lot of people unsubscribed, of course, because, I wasn't active for years. And a lot of people were pleasantly surprised to learn that we're back. So if you have, if you're back listening to this episode because of a post that I shared on Facebook or on YouTube, welcome back. I'm very happy to have you back listening to the Just Japan podcast. All right, folks. Well, that does it for this week's episode of the podcast. I hope you're happy wherever you are in the world. Hope you're healthy. And I'll be talking to you again very soon.